Well, hello to my Sunday school friends. It is really good to see you again. Thank you for being here. We got an interesting story today, I'll tell you. Last time, remember, David killed the giant Goliath. Do you remember that? And everyone was amazed. Well, David brought this giant's head back to the camp. He brought his Goliath's armor. He kept that. And Saul, the king, was astonished. And remember, David had played the harp for him before, had played and sung for him before. So Saul knew him, but he couldn't put it together in his head that this kid, with the sweet voice who sings for me is the same kid that just killed this 9-foot tall giant. And so he asked his commander, Abner, who is that? And Abner said, I don't know. I'll bring him to you. They bring David before Saul, and David says, remember, I'm Jesse's boy. I played for you. I've sung for you. And Saul was just amazed at this. And he initially wanted to keep his promises. He was gonna take care of David. He was gonna make David the commander of his armies. He was gonna let David marry his oldest daughter, and things were gonna go really, really well. David formed a really deep friendship with Saul's son Jonathan. The two of them exchanged gifts with one another and made promises to be best friends with one another, and things were, well, they were pretty good. The Philistines were running away. Their giant was dead. David was settling in. Saul wouldn't let him go home anymore. We're going to keep you here. It was settling into palace life and learning about what he'd need to know someday as king. And things were okay until one day Saul heard some women singing a new song as they walked down the street. And the song started, Saul has killed his thousands. And Saul was all puffed up with pride. I am a mighty warrior. The women think I'm wonderful. They see what I've been doing and they're singing my praises. But then the song continued that David had killed his tens of thousands. And immediately Saul was filled with rage. He hated David. He hated that someone was getting more credit than him, that people loved someone better than him. And he was so angry. He was so mad that he actually twice tried to kill David. That David would be playing the harp for him or the lyre for him, and Saul threw a spear at him. And twice David dodged the spear and lived, and it made Saul crazy. And he saw how much his son cared for David, and that made him crazy. And he'd send David out on risky adventures, right, leading the army, and David did great. The army did great, and that made Saul crazy. He was so mad that the woman he'd promised to David, his oldest daughter, he married her to someone else. But still, David did his duty by the king. He demoted David. He took him off being in charge of the whole army, and he put him in charge of just 1,000 guys and sent him into risky battles. David never complained, and his soldiers performed magnificently. They won everything that Saul sent them into. Well, while this was going on, Saul's younger daughter sort of fell in love with David. She thought he was kind of yummy. And so now Saul has 2 of his children who love David, and he thinks maybe they love him more than they love me. And so Saul comes up with a plan to kill David. Not with his own hand, because he doesn't want to face his daughter or his son, doesn't want to face the people's anger. So he has the servants tell David that if David will go out and kill 100 Philistines and bring proof of their deaths back to Saul, that he can marry Michal. That's the younger daughter, right? And so David goes out and he kills 100 Philistines, and he brings back proof that he's done it. Saul's in a box. He's got no choice but to let his daughter marry David. And so Saul is mad. He's mad all the time. His son is best friends with David. His daughter is newly married and loves David. The people are singing David's praises. Everybody is talking about David. Everything David does is great. That's where we're going to stop today. David getting better and stronger and more popular. Saul getting madder and crazier and meaner. That can't end well, right? It just can't. So, we'll pick this up next time. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're studying hard in school, that you and your family are well. If you want to come to Sunday school, we would love to see you in Sunday school. It's at 9 o'clock at Peace and 9:30 at Nelsonville, and you don't have to tell us you're coming. Just show up. We'd love to see you. In the meantime, you take care. Practice trusting Jesus. Practice praying. Practice living like Jesus wants us to live. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.